Welcome to Media Path. I'm Fritz Coleman.
And I am Louise Planker.
We are loaded with talent today, but before we get there, I want to thank you all for joining us on Media Path. We thank you all for the growth that we're seeing in both audio and video platforms, and we're so glad more listeners and viewers are discovering the show and finding it interesting and entertaining. Now, if you're new here, first of all, welcome. And if you like this episode, which we're sure you will, it'll be spectacular, please subscribe to us on whatever platform you're enjoying us on. And, of course, we would appreciate it very much if you would help us with a quick star rating on Apple or Spotify. We're trying to compete with Joe Rogan. And whatever your comments are on Facebook, we appreciate it. Not Facebook, YouTube. That's where all the kids are.
Wherever the kids are. Sure.
All right, well, we have an accomplished actor and producer, Linda Purl, with us today. She and her old friend Anson Williams are launching a new play at the iconic Rubicon Theatre in Ventura. It's called Crazy Mama, A True Story of Love and Madness. It's a fascinating and deeply personal look at mental health. We also have Sharon Scott Williams, the writer of the award-winning memoir on which the play is based. This is going to be an interesting conversation. We'll invite all three in just a minute, but first, Weezy, what do you have?
Fritz, I am highly recommending a documentary called Beatles 64. I saw this film, it listed on Disney Plus, and almost didn't click because I'm a Beatles docs fan, and I assumed that I had already seen it. They should name the next Beatles doc. You have not yet seen this one. 5 minutes in, I was completely in love with the film. It begins with crisp, brilliantly restored black and white footage of the Beatles giddy on the plane that is bringing them to America in 1964. The fuse has been lit and it's primed to explode as the four excited lads collide with the American youth, all testing positive for Beatlemania. And you, the viewer, are at the flashpoint. Recent innovations in handheld camera equipment made it possible for the Maysles brothers, David and Albert, to document the Beatles throughout much of their trip. The footage became a TV special at the time and has now been remastered to the point of placing us in the heart of the frenetic action. The brothers brilliantly captured not just the Beatles, but the intensity of the electric energy they were inspiring. Interviews with adorably ecstatic fans are among my favorite moments in the film. There is nothing cuter than a hysterical Beatles fan with a thick Brooklyn accent. I have made it my ringtone. The brilliant archival documentary footage is blended with the live performances from the Beatles' first American concert at the Washington, D.C. Coliseum and their Ed Sullivan appearances, all demixed by Wingnut Films and remixed by Giles Martin. Plus, new interviews with Paul and Ringo recalling this first trip to the States with the wisdom of hindsight. We also hear from fans and writers now in their 70s who were forever indelibly imprinted by their first encounters with the band's music and the cultural shift that blossomed in their wake. The Beatles, untarnished by American racism, were enormous R&B fanboys. Their idols were Chuck Berry, Little Richard, and Smokey Robinson. On this trip, they escaped the Midtown mania by clubbing in Harlem with Ronnie Spector and the Ronettes. The Beatles covered Twist and Shout, Please Mr. Postman, You've Really Got a Hold on Me, and infused their sound with the true roots of American rock and roll, black music, paving the way for a more integrated music scene here on the home front. Martin Scorsese produced this treasure, and you may very well watch it many times. Beatles 64 is on Disney Plus.
All right, here we go. I'm going to talk about another documentary on Amazon Prime called Becoming Katharine Graham. Katharine Graham was the owner and publisher of the Washington Post during some of its most groundbreaking years. I thought this doc would be interesting because the current owner of the Post, Jeff Bezos, has changed the ethos of the paper, softening the editorial page to go easy on Trump. The contrast is really enlightening. Katharine Graham was the wife of the Washington Post owner and publisher Phil Graham. She was a very shy, subordinate wife who was often criticized and belittled by her domineering husband. Phil Graham suffered from manic depression and ultimately committed suicide. Katharine wanted to keep the paper in the family, and so she assumed the position of CEO, and after a steep learning curve, ran the paper very successfully. Her leadership happened during two periods that made the Post a global force. One was the publishing of the Pentagon Papers. Katharine did this against the recommendation of her attorneys, but she was more concerned about supporting the First Amendment. Also, the Post, and specifically Bob Woodward and Carl Bernstein, broke out the entire Watergate scandal, which led to the resignation of Richard Nixon. This is a story of a woman completely dominated and overshadowed by a controlling husband who blossoms into a major media force, becoming the first woman to be the CEO of a major American corporation. Katharine says She wasn't a feminist. She was just an effective leader. It's also the story of maybe the greatest era of print journalism, when newspapers, owners and publishers, weren't afraid to speak truth to power. Becoming Katharine Graham on Amazon Prime. It's a great doc. Did you see it?
It's really good. I'm most of the way through it, but I got sleepy last night. I get my recommendations from Fritz the day before our podcast because he tells me what he's recommending, and I'm like, oh my God, I have to go watch that. So it's really good. And what struck me is how shy she is, and that's even more heroic in the face of being naturally shy, to sit in a boardroom with all white men and to have them even resentful that they have to report to a woman, and then to still come in and get better and learn and grow.
And she won them over and became a powerful force. She was amazing.
Yeah, and just great leadership. Wonderful.
All right, let's introduce our guest. Linda Purl has had such an interesting career. She's an actor and a producer and a beautiful singer. She started her acting career in Japan, which is an interesting story. She lived there when her father was in the military. America got to know and love her when she played Ashley Pfister, Fonzie's girlfriend on Happy Days. She was also Charlene Matlock on the original Matlock series with Andy Griffith. She's done 40 television movies a week, all of which has nearly been overshadowed by her intense amount of stage work. She's been on Broadway. She won Drama-Logue Awards for Best Actress and Outstanding Producers, and there's lots more we can delve into. 35 years ago, I saw her in Christopher Durang's play Beyond Therapy in a small theater. There were only 14 seats in this theater in West Hollywood, and she was magnificent. And I said, well, that girl is going to be a star. Then, making a return visit to the show, this guy, we all love this guy so much. And I'm so happy he wants to come back. Anson Williams, a talented actor, director, and producer, known as Potsy on Happy Days. He's been on Melrose Place. He even directed episodes of Beverly Hills 90210. He has a Golden Globe nomination. He and Linda are launching a new project at the iconic Rubicon Theatre in Ventura, California. It goes up March 26th through April 6th. This is a one-woman show, but with 16 different characters. It's called Crazy Mama, The True Story of Love and Madness. It's the story of a daughter trying desperately to rescue her mother, who is slipping further and further into mental illness. Anson says this play is the story of the resilience of the human heart and the enduring nature of hope. The play is based on an award-winning memoir of our third guest, Sharon Scott Williams, the married person immediately to his right on your screen. Sharon is the author and a playwright, and hopes that the humor and the pathos of her personal struggle with her mom will help other people reevaluate their relationships with their mothers. Welcome all. Nice to have you here. Is Linda asleep?
Nice
Great to be here. Hi.
Oh, okay, good. Sharon.
Jojo said stay
Oh, we have
tuned.
puppies.
Oh, my God.
Who is this?
This is
That's
Jojo,
Jojo.
our show dog.
Hi,
Oh,
puppy.
that's so. Does he have a part in the show? He's four of the
He's
16
trying.
characters. Oh, okay.
He's auditioning really hard.
Oh, my God.
You know, on a lot of podcasts, people describe what they're drinking because a lot of people are running or driving and they can't see the screen. So on this show, we're going. Oh, what are you drinking, Linda?
Water.
Water.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
LaCroix.
We're going to also describe our dog. So what kind of dog are we having today?
This is a Shih Tzu, and his sister is also here with us.
He's
Aw.
a cutie.
So they're a duo, Gigi and Jojo.
Very well behaved.
Yeah.
All right, Sharon,
adorable.
while you're wrangling dogs, let me ask you a question. This is your life. So just briefly describe the memoir. It starts in an interesting place. You were 8 years old. You just had your 8th birthday party and you came home to an awful scene. Describe it.
I grew up in a Southern Railroad town, Roanoke, Virginia, and had a very normal, idyllic life with my family, my older brother and mom and dad. And I got off the school bus one day in the fall and came up the driveway and through the breezeway and into the kitchen. And my mother was lost in a frenzy, wielding a butcher knife at someone that she could see and I couldn't. And it was a completely bewildering scene, as you can imagine at 8 years old, to see your mother take on this whole new personality. And she wasn't even aware of me. But that sort of kicked off a completely new phase in our lives, my family and I. And so, we kept wishing and hoping that our real mom was going to come back. And somehow be healed, and we were constantly looking for the cure. And when you're 8 years old and you've read a lot of fairy tales, you're looking for, your true love's kiss and the witch's brew and that sort of thing. And we kept thinking we were going to find it. So this story is really about how a family copes with, a tectonic shift in the family structure like this. And of course, the mother is the center of the family. So how do you compensate for that? And my father, luckily, was a very funny guy. And he sort of kept us all sane, the rest of us sane, with his wonderful sense of humor, kind of dark, but it was great. And
but there's always peripheral damage on these things. You said your father dealt with it with alcohol, and your brother lost his faith in the struggle of all trying to figure out how to deal with your mom. And when you have a parent with an issue, whether it's mental illness or alcoholism or whatever, you spend the rest of your life trying to help them, but also helping yourself through the trauma that you've suffered just being her daughter.
Right.
Yes. Well, but the one thing I want people to understand, this play is so entertaining. You laugh and you cry and you're inspired. It really defines the power of love, how love wins, and how a family handles it. They handle it through love. They handle it through humor, and there's also there's hope, there's magic, and you walk out of the show, moved, inspired, and magic does happen. In fact, and Linda here plays 16 parts, 16 real characters.
Wow.
And I'll tell you, if you get to the last line of this play, you will never forget it. You will never.
I can't listen to that part.
You will never forget it.
Well,
it's a powerhouse.
You picked an amazing person to do it.
Yes, right here.
Linda, what drew to you? I know you've done a lot with Rubicon, but what drew you to this project?
Everything about it. First of all, I'm looking at you, Fritz, and Anson, and I think between these various friendships, we have over a century of friendships here.
Least.
So,
at least.
That history, that trust runs deep, and you value those things the more, the further decades you get into your life. So Anson. But this play it's exquisitely written. And one of the reasons, I knew that when I first read it, but now that I'm memorizing the 64-page monologue,
wow.
Part of the deal in memorizing is that the better written it is, the easier it goes in. There's an exquisite logic. It takes place in Virginia, and that's Sharon's, that's where she's from. That's where my mother's kin was from. So there's a musicality to the language. A dry wit, as Anson alluded, a wicked sense of humor that, as witnessed through the 16 characters that appear, in the piece.
Give us a taste of the 16 characters. Who are they?
Well, there are a bunch of people. There's Sharon, as she is in the memory, looking back. There's little Sharon. There are the family members, and then there are the people that they encounter: the principal, the neighbors, the nurse, the police. And I think that's one of the, talking about collateral damage or collateral effect anyway, when something like this happens, it happens between the people, but the reverberations are huge. And so I think one of the many things the play does exquisitely is that it cracks open that conversation of how do any one of us deal with trauma in a family, with mental illness, with any kind of illness. There's shame, there's sorrow, there's humor, there's foreign territory. So one of my hopes with this is that people will come out of this and feel free to talk and ask questions and to unburden themselves for, whatever aspects of life have been run in parallel tracks to the play.
When
guys
we were
were
doing,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Before it's being produced, we had some readings. It was very interesting how it affected people. Even though their mother didn't have a psychotic breakdown, they had cancer, they had Alzheimer's. Somehow their mother isn't there anymore, just a body. And how it affected this audience was incredible. It just broke down barriers, opened up emotion, knowing you're not alone. It's a really healing experience. And I think so important today. I mean, mental illness is rampant. I mean, just rampant. And we need the show. We need this show for people to know they're not alone, and there is hope,
Yeah.
and there is magic.
A couple of things about that.
And don't hide it.
Yeah, that's an
collaborate with
interesting
each
point.
other, and we help each other.
Yeah, the other thing I hope that people see in the play is how other people perceive the mentally ill. And I hope by getting to know my mother and my family, they'll have a different attitude about mental illness.
I love that.
You know, I want to ask you one question about that. You were talking about the fact that there's razor sharp Southern humor in this. Do you think there was any difference in the way mental illness is judged in the South at the time you were growing up than there would be in other places? What I mean is, was it pushed under the rug? Was it forgiven? Was it accepted gracefully? Did you notice a difference in that at all?
Well, to me, where I grew up, and my relatives and the people I knew, there's a line in the play that says, "Daddy doesn't know what caused it. All he knows is the people around here push through their troubles, and they take their medicine, no matter how bitter the taste." And that's the way we dealt with it. That's the way most people did. So yeah, there were lots of secrets in Southern families, and you try to keep it as secret as you can. And I know people that I've met in later life that knew me when I was a kid, and they said, "Gosh, we didn't even know there was anything wrong with your mama."
Wow.
And they didn't know because she was in a hospital all the time.
What was her final diagnosis? What was her medical term?
Oh, paranoid schizophrenia. And she was also bipolar. I mean, she had the full menu.
So, Sharon, how did the writing of this play help you process your emotional churn of anger, confusion, guilt, fear, shame? Because your needs were not being met in the midst of all this raising yourself and each other. Your needs were not being met. So, how did the writing of this play help you?
It was incredibly cathartic. It was like a 10-year therapy trip. It really was, because I realized as I was writing it how much I had buried and I had not dealt with. And I didn't realize that writing was something that was going to help heal me. And since I feel like it did, that's why I'm hoping that it'll do the same for the audience members that are dealing with trouble in their families or in their lives.
Anson, how was it to direct your wife's most personal piece? That's the Adam Burnett of wanting to do it justice. And
Actually,
There've been no food fights yet.
like that. I'm the director. Stop it. It's very interesting, guys. I direct a lot of film, and when you direct film, you pretty much, you're in charge of the set. They come to you, not in theater. They go to the writer.
yes.
And yeah, thank you. Anyway, Ms. Williams, what do you think? No, I actually, it was a real collaboration, because after reading Sharon's memoir, it just literally hit me in the shower one day. This is a play. This is a one-woman show. And she goes, "What?" I said, "No." She goes, "I haven't written the play." I said, "Well, you will. Get final draft. That'll give you the mechanics, and right away." So basically, she took 77,000 words and brought it down to 14,000, restructured it for a play. So my thing, how do I feel? I'm honored. You're kidding? Sitting in the middle here, I am honored. It's like a couple of the greatest talents ever, and what they've done here is just, it's long lasting. I can't wait till opening night, and I can't wait to see where this play takes us.
Yeah, March 26th, the world premiere. And what would be your goals for this?
29th is the world premiere. 26th, the previews. 26th, 27th, 29th. That's the big
World premiere.
Launch.
World premiere night.
Wow.
And it goes until April 6th. And, we're hoping for an extension for another week beyond that.
Yep.
So what's the collaboration between the two ladies, Linda and Sharon? Because you're watching her portray all these characters that you created, Sharon, and Linda has her own craft and, her own purpose in portraying this. So how has this been collaboratively for the two of you?
I'll jump in here. It's interesting because I had not met Sharon in person. We had a couple of Zooms, like, hi, nice to meet you. So I've known her sort of in reverse order, because Sharon bears her soul so elegantly, so eloquently in this, and her life journey. So I feel like I've known her for about 20 years. And then we say, hi, how do you do? So it's fascinating. And I think, again, because my mother's kin comes from the same part of Virginia, boy, I feel like her aunties, I've got some of those nutty aunties too, and uncles. And so it's reawakening my heritage in a way that no other play has done.
Wow.
And I love the fact that ladies in the South in particular deal with their challenges with humor. I just remember Steel Magnolias, which I saw 15 times.
Yeah.
It was such a profound emotional experience, but they all dealt with it with their humor. And it sounds like your play is sort of similar to that.
And there's a lot of that in our play.
You should. Okay, you have to do the opening line.
Oh no.
Yes.
Okay,
because you don't have to say. We have a blues man. There's one other character, a blues man, and basically he's like a Greek chorus. Sharon wrote an original song called "Crazy Mama," so we'll go to him through his singing. He furthers the story. He's a very intricate part of the structure of this play, and he has the opening line of the show. And we want to, you want to start it with a smile, believe it or not. Take it away.
So the blues man comes out and he's strumming his guitar, and he says, "The statistics on sanity are that 1 out of every 4 people is suffering from some kind of mental illness. Look at your 3 best friends. If they're okay, it's you."
There you go.
I mean,
And that's the opening of the show, and everyone relaxes. They're laughing.
Yeah.
And we're into it.
what's interesting, I think, to Northerners about the South is that what we see is this colorful blend of manners and duplicity that's almost expected of each person. Like, you have one personality for church, and then you have, and it's not considered in any way ingenuine. It's just what's expected to move through your day. And so
It's the society.
yeah, exactly. So putting it all in a play must be fun for Linda to perform.
Well, it's very fun. It's deep. The play runs profoundly, deeply, emotionally. These are working class folks. So I would say that there's a distinct lack of airs. There's tremendous dignity and fortitude in them, and loyalty, a fierce loyalty. I mean, the love between, of course, I never met Sharon's parents, but the love between Sharon and her brother, I feel it. And the love between a particular auntie and the kids, and the love between Sharon's parents is tangible. So that's.
Are your parents still alive? Sharon, are your parents alive? Is your mom and dad, are your mom and dad alive?
Oh, no,
Okay.
they passed on a long time ago.
Did they? Oh, so they didn't even have a chance to see the memoir.
They didn't. No,
Okay.
actually, I didn't start writing it until after they passed away. And part of dealing with their passing and all the other issues I had to deal with was writing it. So so I worked on it. I believe I started in like 2011 or 2015, something like that, at a writer's retreat.
Awesome.
And it really just started washing out of me.
The broader context of your play is that you're the child that became the caretaker for the parent, which is something else everybody's becoming more familiar with. You have an Alzheimer's parent, you have, some kind of dementia, and it's not only expensive, it's exhausting, and many people have to give up their jobs to stay home and take care of a parent. So I'm sure you address all those issues, but that's a common thing that people will resonate with too, I'm sure.
Yeah, I never met Sharon's dad, but he's a hero to me. Here's this guy. He didn't just, he did everything in his power to help her mom. He sold life insurance, and he sold life insurance, and yet he was responsible for all the bills. Insurance did not pay for those hospital stays. Insurance, he had to pay it all out of pocket. He kept his family together. He kept humor. He kept hope. He brought in love, and he worked his tail off
Night and
day to make sure her mom got every opportunity. And just selling insurance, and yet keeping a family together, and yet keeping hope alive.
Yeah.
Wow.
And your mom, what was her state of health when she passed? I understand how debilitating schizophrenia can be. Did she ever get to a point of peace?
That is.
You have to come see the play.
You have to come see the play.
Where we reveal that too.
Yes. Yes.
Question.
Yeah. Great
Okay.
question.
All right. No spoiler
You will be
alerts.
greatly moved.
All right. Well, we're going to play a game. We have a game, and we usually do a game called IMDb Roulette. But this is all. We've got 3 people here, and so we're going to do like a subgenre of IMDb Roulette, and it's called "Were You on It?" Were you on it?
You can't lose at this game because we have all the answers. So just have
And
fun.
so
okay.
this is going to be. You can help out, Sharon, but this is a battle between Anson
absolutely.
and Linda, because they have between the two of them like 10,000 IMDb credits. So the game is "Were you on it?" And if you have a buzzer, buzz in, or you can just yell, "I was on it."
You're
Or-
assuming that we remember what we were.
no, I'm assuming
Oh, that
you
happens
don't,
a lot.
and
Have a
that's
go.
what makes it fun.
But we have all the
Absolutely assuming you don't. All right, the first show, "Were you on it?" Anson and or Linda, the Paul Lynde Show.
Yes.
No.
All right, Anson, you are correct. You were on it. Do you remember who you played?
I played their daughter's boyfriend.
And tell us about that.
Paul and half-hour series. Huh?
Tell us about working with Paul Lynde.
Interesting.
facts. Enough
I also
said.
did Hollywood Squares with him. But he was unique. He was nice to me. And it was directed by Bill Asher, who did Bewitched. It was married to who's the star of
Belinda Montgomery.
Belinda Montgomery and all that. Yeah. So it's very interesting. I learned a lot from Bill Asher. Just, it was my first 3, I think it was my first 3 camera show.
Oh, cool.
All right.
Yeah.
Which of you was on Fantasy Island?
Yes.
Okay,
Correct.
Anson. What was
Yes.
well, who did you
Oh,
play?
check this out. I played David Cassidy's grandfather.
What?
Wow.
No,
Grandfather?
grandson.
You
I was
shot
going to
him.
say, how old
what
were
happened
you?
was, anyway, I had to go back in time. I forgot what it's about to fix something, and David was playing like a, what's the old Cohan character? It's a grand old flag. It's a high, one of the, and I had to go back. There's something in the music that had to be changed. I don't
Oh
remember.
my God.
But yeah, so there I was. Yeah.
I
Back in time.
didn't realize that the Fantasy Island could sometimes involve time travel. They're versatile over there.
Yeah, that's what we did. I don't remember much, but.
Okay, the next "Were you on it?" is The Secret Storm.
Oh, gosh. Yeah. I did.
You are correct,
Barely
Linda.
able to
That-
lift her hand.
And they had teleprompters then when they
Oh.
did soap operas. And I've done a couple of soaps in the last couple of years. And to my horror, they no longer use teleprompters. So you get 30 to 60 pages of dialogue a day. And I mean, I'm in awe of soap opera.
Yeah. Those
So
lead characters,
people.
like
I think
32
I
pages
played
of
a
dialogue.
little girl who was sleeping with a priest and walking down the
Seriously?
streets of New York. Yeah, I mean, this is not a storyline that should ever have happened, and certainly wouldn't happen. Yeah.
So,
But,
yeah,
oh my
you-
God, the looks, the mail, it wasn't pretty.
Yeah. let me do an addendum to the teleprompter thing. So I did this movie, the made for TV movie of Perry Mason, called "The Tale of the Telltale Talk Show Host." And they did stunt casting. And because it was on Channel 4, they thought, well, let's have Fritz Coleman and Fred Rogan play an irritating morning radio team. And we all worked at a radio station, and somebody killed Regis Philbin. And so it was a sad day in America. And
Everyone had a motive.
Everybody had a motive. And we, Mariette Hartley was on there, and Christina Ferrari played the woman's show host, and Montel Williams played the sports host, and all of us were suspects. But this was deep into the disease of Raymond Berger. He had kidney cancer or something, and we went to Denver to shoot this, and he never worked with other actors. He had gotten to the point where they just brought him out of his trailer to do his lines, but he did his lines through a teleprompter. And he had this insane ability to play to the teleprompter like he was playing to his opposing actor, and he just made it look so real, but he never worked with another live actor in that thing. It was really interesting. Crazy.
He wound up falling in love with a teleprompter, and they've been very happy.
Yep, okay.
All right, Fritz, you're next.
Oh, I married a centerfold.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Oh, stop.
Sorry.
Oh, stop.
Sorry.
Yeah, he used to like you. And now you're making all this you're making very public these past works.
It's groceries,
Yeah, I
my
did.
friend.
Yeah,
It's
I was in
groceries.
it.
We forgive you.
Me and the guy who starred in Wings. What was the, and he's also in
Daly? One of the
Tim Daly.
Yeah.
Hines brother, yeah.
Tim was the lead, and that was it.
Was
And
he
you
the
played
centerfold?
who?
He married the centerfold.
Oh, he married the centerfold. Okay.
Yeah, he married the centerfold. Yeah.
Were you
It's
the
not the
boyfriend?
same as marrying a teleprompter,
I was a
but it's
co-worker,
similar.
Oh,
for him.
You
I
played
see.
Nick
That
Bellows.
was nothing to do with the centerfold at all.
Okay.
You played Nick Bellows,
Hammond.
the guy who was always peripheral to the sex. You never got any sex. But
He
you
put
were...
the staples in the centerfold.
Oh, there we go.
It's a very important role.
All right, Wheezy.
Let's see. The Waltons. It's Linda.
Nope.
Everybody did the Waltons. Yeah.
I don't think Anson did the Waltons.
I didn't do the
Of you
Waltons. Nope.
three, you did the
No,
Waltons.
it was a really fun show. My God, the cast, the actors, and as is the case with Happy Days, lifelong friendships came out of the Waltons. One of the fun things is that they shot for the most part on the Warner Brothers lot. So on the way there, you would pass through the Kung Fu set. There was some science
wow.
fiction series going on. I mean, it was a great time.
And
A
you
great
sang with
time.
John Walmsley.
I did.
I'll Fly
did.
Away.
Yes.
That's
yes,
so cool.
I did.
Yeah, you were on it twice. You played Vanessa and Alicia Hanover. So they loved you.
Whatever you
She
say.
believes you. Yeah.
They loved you, and they had your back.
Okay. Who played on Black Market Baby?
I did. They made me wear, I played an Italian girl and they dyed my hair brown and I had to wear black or very dark brown contact lenses. Ow.
Yeah,
I feel like
seriously.
someone just
Wow.
poured a bucket of sand in your
Did
your
you give
eyeballs,
birth to
but-
the Black Market Baby? Who was
did.
you were Anne Macarino.
Okay.
Well,
Jessica Walters was the it was her baby. And
Oh, okay.
anyway, yeah, everybody was in trouble and troubled.
I'm going to look up all these. This is my weekend. We're all set.
You're better off watching your documentary.
Back to the dogs.
All right. Who was on Murder, She Wrote?
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that was Linda. That was Linda.
One of the great privileges of doing that show, of course, was working with the great Angela Lansbury.
Oh,
And
amazing.
that's not a phrase I'm using lightly. She, for any of us, as you go, you meet people and you go, oh, that's the golden standard. That's how to be. So one of the many things Angela did was that she just saw to it, like Gary Marshall,
Yeah.
that if someone had a dream and they were willing to work for it, she would nudge them ahead. So all the costume girls had a chance to design the show at some point. Well, as did the assistant directors. They all had a chance to direct.
Wow.
The sound guy wanted to be a writer. He wrote a script. He got also, and that was all Angela's doing. I didn't know that from her, but if you were a guest on that show, the crew members would just come out and just tell you these stories. They wanted that story. They wanted to know what a wonderful, wonderful woman she was. And the other thing, it was, a woman of a certain age, who am I to say, at that time. And so, folks didn't always have their health insurance. So she would see to it that her friends, incredibly talented stars who may not have been working as much, would do a guest show, and that would give them their health insurance for the year. And if that wasn't enough, Angela would just pony up the rest, and it would go through proper channels. And I mean, everybody's gone now, so we can tell these stories, but it was that caring for the well-being of people, and she opted to move people's lives forward in very many ways on a regular basis.
That's a
What
wonderful
a beautiful
story.
example, and paying it forward, I'm sure, because everyone that was touched by her is going out of their way to do the same in their own lives.
Okay,
I don't.
Baywatch. Who was on Baywatch? Who was on Baywatch? Linda?
Wait.
Did you wear a Speedo?
I was gonna
No,
say,
there's a story behind this.
You played
Okay.
Councilman
I never wanted to
McKenna.
direct Baywatch. However, a friend had a marker on me,
Uh-huh.
and he had a bad time for a while, and they became the showrunner for Baywatch Hawaii.
Wow.
And he goes, and I get this call, Anson, what? You have to do 6 of these. What show? You have to do 6 of these.
Wow.
You owe me. So I have to go back there to direct these, and that's not easy. That show, it's exhausting. Never go to Hawaii and have to work.
Yeah, that makes
It's
sense.
it is
especially in the summer.
exhausting. So then he goes, hey, you're here, and there's this part, so you'll do a minimum. You direct yourself. That's why I'm in Baywatch Hawaii. I played some congressman or something.
Yeah,
I think.
Councilman McKenna.
I had to do a stunt, fall off the boat. I'm going, what? I said, marker is no more markers.
Done.
Done. So yes, I ended up, being in.
Okay, here's the last one. The Love Boat.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, we both did. You
Yeah,
did that.
they both
Yeah.
Oh, you did. I think you did the love boat.
No, I did do the
Everybody did the love
Everyone
boat.
did.
Oh.
Trick question. You both did it. Yes.
No, if you walk by the studio, they grab you, put you in love boat. Everybody.
Sharon, were you an actor before you did the memoir?
I studied performing arts when I was in college as my minor, and I did some stage work. But
You know what she
not
did?
as
She set a course for
professional.
adventure, which is almost like being on the Love Boat, with her eye on a new romance.
Let me ask you
No,
this.
I come from the advertising world.
Yeah,
I
she's
was
an
a
advertising
creative director.
kingpin. She is. She's won all kinds of advertising awards.
Lots of great
I have to
writers
brag about my wife.
started out in
She
advertising
became
because
the first female creative director in the history of Young and Rubicon.
Young and Rubicon. Yeah.
oh my goodness.
The largest advertising PR advertising company in the world. She wrote The Glass Ceiling
Wow.
and did that. And she worked for them for, I think, a decade.
Oh,
You know, there are a lot of people who became screenwriters or other writing that started in advertising because they learned brevity. They learned to do a plot in 30 seconds, and they're really good at
Yes.
that.
And
wow,
to
I'm not
get your
surprised.
attention. I've
and
told
work on a deadline.
And to work
You
on a
have to
deadline.
work on a
Right.
deadline,
I have a
too.
story
you
for
learn that
Anson.
discipline. Yeah.
very disciplined. Yeah.
Wow.
Because I come from radio, so we worked very closely with you folks. And so, yeah, true pros. Thanks for coming along down the media path, and however you have found your way to us, we would love for you to like and subscribe and give us a nice review because as creators, it is our appointed duty to ask you to do that. You may also want to find us on Instagram and Blue Sky where we are at Media Path Pod, and on Facebook where our show page is Media Path Podcast and our Facebook group is Media Path with Fritz and Wheezy Podcast Community. If you are listening to our show, we are also a video podcast on YouTube at Media Path Podcast. You can write to us at mediapathpodcast@gmail.com. My TikTok is Louise Palenker, where I post behind-the-scenes peeks and clips from the show. And Fritz's TikTok is Fritz Coleman Comedy. He posts stand-up clips and popular dance crazes. Our website is mediapathpodcast.com. There you can binge episodes and our spicy newsletter. Thank you so much. On with the rest of the show. I have a story for Anson. So it's summertime, and I had made a movie about the Cowsills called Family Band: The Cowsill Story. So my sisters and my nephew and I went to Ojai to see the Happy Together tour. And we're watching the Cowsills and the Turtles and the Association. Everybody was there. And then Susan Cowsill comes into the audience. It's this like nice venue. It's outdoors. And she comes into the audience. No one's bothering her. So I went over to say hi. And she's like, I can't talk to you right now. And then she goes, I'm on a mission. So she's making a beeline for Anson. You guys remember this. She's making a beeline for Anson. She's like, our merch girl is in love with him. I am bringing him to her. out of my way. So, so it just so happened that Anson was there. Word got up to the talent, and she found you, and then you can take the story from there.
Yeah, and I didn't even get a T-shirt. I don't know.
You should have gotten a free T-shirt, but yeah, she brought you out to meet the merch girl, who was like probably on the floor fainting.
I loved it too. I'm a fan of all those groups. It was what's the one I like so much? Follow me alone, dance like say goodbye.
The Vogues.
No, it's
Oh,
not
the Vogues.
No.
Carmilla?
Carmilla is.
Oh, Jay and the Americans.
Jay and the Americans.
Yeah.
Who still has a great voice.
Yeah.
They were there.
No, it was a great night. Yeah.
This is for anybody. This is a question for anybody.
Yeah, they were very good.
But that's it. But that amphitheater is really nice.
They're really nice.
It's a great evening.
Gary Puckett was there. It was a good night.
So let me ask you this question, guys. What's up with theater in Los Angeles? I mean, Linda, you've worked at the Mark Taper Forum, one of the coolest theaters because of its geography. They can't get any shows in there that last. They can't do what their mandate was, which was to create sort of experimental theater that might grow and go to New York or something. What is it about L.A. that makes it so hard?
I think it's fundamentally not in terms of entertainment. It's theater's never been part of the culture, the forefront. I mean, if you're a working actor in LA, you get up at 5 a.m. and go to work as opposed to a theater schedule like we're doing now. The other thing is driving, as opposed to New York or London. You can take the subway, take the tube, you go see the play, you can go out for a drink and dinner with your pals afterward, have a good chat, hail a cab, and get home. You don't have to drive. So I think I'm so sad to say this, or it organically doesn't necessarily lend itself to that. That said, they're wonderful area theaters. Mm-hmm. I mean, the Kirk Douglas Theater, that's a prime
South
example. There's still some wonderful theaters in Hollywood. The Broadwater is one. And Rubicon, where we're going to be doing this up in Ventura, it's been here now for
25 years.
25.
She said it was
25. So good. I'm glad to
know
that.
That's a noted theater.
First show here, and I think this is my, 8th, 9th show with them. And
you did it's your 10th show on the main stage, and you
is that so?
And then you ran the World Global Theater program there in 2008.
I did. Well, and I did the International Theater Festival, which was a another kind of adventure. But what they've built here is a loyal audience and a very savvy theater going audience because they've seen good theater consistently. Of course, we may change that. We hope not. Anyway, consistently here, and they have a strong audience from Los Angeles. So. I mean, like anything, any effort, you eventually find your village. So there is really good theater. There's so much theater that has moved from Los Angeles to Broadway, from Los Angeles to the West End. So
is it a repertory theater? How does it work out there?
It's not repertory, no. Although there are a handful of actors that have worked here regularly: George Ball, Joseph Fuqua, Amanda McBroom, Stephanie Zimbalist, Joe Spano. So there is kind of a loose, not so loose, but anyway, there is a village of people, and it's the real deal, and it's not a flash in the pan. So
you'd like to get extended, and so if you got extended, what's your out date? Where do you have to be out of there by, and what would be the next run? Maybe off Broadway and take it from there, or what?
That would be great. Of course, we would all love for that to happen. But I mean, I think the thing is, for our job is that we start with the work and do the best we can and enjoy the adventure that we're on. We're thinking we'll probably extend to the 13th of April. But anyway, we'll have this short run, and then it's a gypsy life. You put it out to the universe, and hopefully we will have an opportunity to move ahead with it.
Tell us a little bit about Happy Days, because you were Fonzie's girlfriend. What was her relationship with Potsy like?
Well, none. When I first did this show, because Donnie Most, our mutual friend called
Yeah.
and said, there's this role for a girlfriend for Richie Cunningham. So he got me in the door to audition. I ended up doing that role. And so that's when Anson and I worked together 51 years ago. And, but then, as you know, Ron went on to have this glorious career doing something, I forget what. And Henry's role sort of took it. So that was all the ancillary characters around Ron Howard's character were out of a job because Ron wasn't on this show anymore. So I left years later. They put out a casting notice. They were looking for a fiance for Fonzie. They were looking for a Linda Purl type. So my manager called and said, can Linda audition for the Linda Purl type? And I did, me and 500 other girl, and Gary graciously gave me the role. So I came back many years later as a totally different character, by which time Anson and himself moved on to a fabulous directorial career.
Oh, okay. So all ships passing in the night.
Yeah.
I think the public reaction to that show is interesting. When it first came out, it was sort of drafting on the nostalgia craze of American Graffiti and that whole thing. We were looking back at the 50s. Now I think there's a different years later nostalgia of people watching that on the many streaming services they can watch it on right now and having nostalgia for how family-friendly television was back in the era when that came out.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's true.
It's true. Do you know there were 2 pilots for Happy Days? The first one didn't. Yeah. In fact, it was Harold Gould was playing Mr. Cunningham.
Oh, wow.
yeah.
Mary was in it. Ron was in it. I was in it. A different Joni.
Wow.
And no Fonzie, Ralphie weren't even created yet.
Wow.
And a New Family in Town was called, or no, it was more like Summer 42. And Gary wrote it, very heartfelt. For sure, this is going to sell. It didn't. And a year later, ABC saw the success of Grease on Broadway, American Graffiti.
Wow.
So they said, okay, there's that show. What's it? Happy Days? Yeah, we'll make it more like Graffiti. Let's do another pilot.
Wow.
But Ron and I went off of the parts again.
Oh my God.
They said the network thought we might be too old. We had a screen test.
Okay.
So we're going, oh, great. We're screen testing for the parts we created. So anyway,
Wow.
it's the day before the screen test. We're doing like the wardrobe thing. And Ron's there. And Ron says, have you like, ever done these tests before? Screen tests? I go, no. He goes, listen, we don't have a lot of time. So I got an idea. So we found out where it's going to be shot the next morning. And he said, we're going to block ourselves out. We're going to pretend we're creating it on the spot. But he said, because Gary loves that. He's directing it. So we're first up. We worked all this stuff out. First up, you're supposed to have 20 minutes. 2 hours later, we come out, and of course there's all these other people in the same wardrobe.
Right.
And then Robbie Benson and all these people.
Oh, God.
And we just walk by and we go, 2 hours, baby.
Oh, geez.
And they're looking like this, right?
Oh my God.
So Donnie tried out for Potsy. They liked him so much they created Ralph.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I think it's cool that you guys had to prove you could be Richie and Potsy, and Linda had to prove she could be Linda Purl.
Recurring theme.
What a business.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
were both separately, but we were both in Italy recently. And, what is it about Americana of the
Oh,
50s
God.
that relates in Italy? But they're crazy for the show. To this day, they're crazy for
Yeah.
Happy Days.
Well,
in Italy.
Arthur Fonzarelli, nice Italian boy.
Yeah, they're running-
Yes, running like a new series.
you're like going back there. It was like 1974. It's just,
Yeah.
because they've never taken it off.
Can I hear the Anson and Sharon love story, please?
You want to tell that one? Well, I have a day job like most people these days. And I'm a real estate broker. Okay. So in 2011, I get this call from Anson Williams, who of course I knew who it was. And he said, I want you to show me this house that you have advertised in this magazine. Well, it was not in a great area. So I said, well, I don't know if that's the right house for you. I have some other things I'd like to show you. He goes, nope, I want to see that one. I like that one. I said, all right, come on up. So he comes up from Malibu And I take him to this house that he wanted to see.
We didn't,
And
we didn't get to the top of the
he
stairs.
gets out of the car. I think
Yeah.
he got out of the car and said, "Oh no." I said, "You're right. You're right. I should have listened to you." So anyway, he ended up buying this nice house in Ojai, and then I didn't really, I think I ran into the hardware store or something.
Yeah, yeah.
But at the time I was married, he was married. I mean, it was just like, hi. And so 8 years later, my husband has passed.
Oh.
Anson is separated, almost divorced from his wife. He's living full time now in Ojai instead of Malibu. He's in that Ojai house I sold him. And I had just had this horrible injury, which I understand happens a lot to widows because you're still grieving, you're not thinking. And I fell down these steps, and
Oh.
I'm not going to detail, but it was a really bad
Oh.
injury. And I had just gotten out of the wheelchair, and Anson texts me. He doesn't call me and say, "Hi, how you doing?" He texts me.
Hi, how you doing?
All right. He texts me, "Hey, Sharon, you want to go to lunch on Thursday?" And I'm like, "What?" I called my daughter and I said, "Anson Williams just texted me and asked me to go to lunch. What do you think?" And I said, "I think it's too soon. I think it's too soon."
Did
It
he
was
know
like
you were in a
6
wheelchair at the
months
time?
after my husband had passed.
Oh.
And my daughter says, "No, Mom, Dad wanted you to be happy. You go."
Oh.
Which was such a beautiful thing for her to do. And I really wasn't sure if I was ready, but I did. I went to lunch with him, but I thought, I can't go in there on crutches. I had just gotten on the crutches. I didn't feel that safe. So I go early, and I'm sitting there at the table when he comes. We have this incredible 3-hour lunch where we're both crying. I'm
Oh.
still mourning. He's mourning his situation. It's anybody who's been through a divorce knows that's no fun. But we really connected on such a human level.
We did.
And so he said, "Well, the restaurant's empty. I guess we need to get going." So I said, "Yeah, would you hand me my crutches?"
And I go, "What?" And that was, I mean, literally, we crutched out, and but I fell in love, right? And so basically, she had booked this retreat in Italy, writer's retreat, and she goes, "Oh, I'm never going to be able to go now with the cobblestones." I go, "Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
Oh.
Yes, you are." So that became our relationship, was literally helping her walk again.
Yeah.
So that was the beginning of the relationship, and she made it. And she made it there.
Make it. Yeah.
Oh.
And I was
Yeah.
able to walk on the cobblestone.
Yeah.
But
And-
and then I came back, and we've never ended that first date.
No.
We're still on that first date.
That was it.
Was
We
it-
got
was
married
he-
in May of 2023
Mm-hmm.
after going through COVID together,
Oh.
which I know a lot of relationships were spawned during COVID.
Oh.
But we had such a good time. I hate to
We had
say
a great
it sounds
time during
terrible,
COVID.
but we were like
It was the
cooking for
best.
each other every night,
I loved it.
and
the
no
recipe.
distractions. I mean, it's a good time to get to know somebody really deeply.
Yeah, and it was like fabulous.
Yeah.
Was he a
This
good?
is great,
Was he
and
a good?
And then I actually, what I did, I bought this portable table
Mhm.
that you could just undo, and a few other things. I said, "I'm going to take you to the best restaurants and the best views you ever had." But it's COVID, doesn't matter. I found the best ocean view, set that table
Oh
up.
God, how
Oh.
It had chairs attached, right?
Yeah.
I'd have takeout food, and we had the greatest time going
That's
to the greatest
fantastic.
restaurants
Yeah.
with the
It
greatest
didn't
views
exist.
that didn't exist. That didn't exist.
Yeah.
We had a blast,
Yeah.
just a blast.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
were creating your
It
own.
really just showed compatibility,
Yeah.
in so many different areas.
Was he the first editor of your memoir? Was he the first pass editor of your memoir?
Of the play, yes.
Oh,
Not of
okay.
the memoir. The memoir was already done and
Oh, okay.
edited and all that at that time. But no, he was the guy that helped me structure the play and helped me edit it because I had 70 something thousand words that needed to get down to
cutting it down.
So
I know you wish I'd cut it memoir, but it's now 14,000 words.
She only has to learn 14,000 words. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Now, Linda, was
But,
I picking
he
up
was
that?
great at that because I would have to come. This is like what I used to do for a living, where the writers would come in and read their stuff. And I go, no, get rid of that. Do this.
Less is more.
So he was doing the same thing to me. And it was really amazing. But we got it done in 6 weeks.
Oh, that is really, that's.
All right, let's talk about.
Wait. One question. You touched Linda about COVID love stories, and I just was maybe picking up that Linda has a COVID love story.
I do. Life is so strange. I mean, at this ancient age, it's just, the thing that surprises me most, I think, is how many chapters there are. So yeah, I was living in New York, came to LA for a few days and bumped into a 40-year long vague acquaintance we had passed in the halls. We were both in television, and it was Patrick Duffy. And so we literally bumped into each other once every 20 years. So 20 years prior to that, I had seen him in London because he was doing a play called Art with Richard Thomas, friend from the Waltons. So I went to see Richard. It was like, hey, how you doing, Patrick? Nice to see you. Richard and I headed out for dinner. That was that. When I saw Patrick about 6 years ago now, 5 years ago, I said, oh my God, I'm just going to see Richard. And he said, well, I've lost touch with him. Here's my email. Put us in touch. So now the three of us are in a group text. I'm living in New York. Patrick's living in Oregon. And we would do like happy Christmas texts, the three of us, that kind of thinking, come to New York and we'll go out and have a knees up one night. And COVID hit. And I repaired to my home in Colorado, and we were all of us around the world, we were in isolation. And Patrick and I somehow, we'd like accidentally FaceTime. It's like, oh, that's scary. And then we heard about this thing called Zoom. And so we started Zooming, and because there was nothing to do for a year, we ended up Zooming. He's an Irishman. He can talk. We Zoomed every night for 2 to 3 hours for about 3 months.
Wow.
And we got to know each other. And at some point in there, it was like, oh, wait a minute, this might be more than a lovely friendship with so much common territory. And we'd read each other poetry, and he direct. I was doing a play, another one-woman play for a on-camera fundraiser thing. So he directed me on that virtually from Oregon to Colorado. And anyway, at some point he said, I think I need to get in my car and see what's going on. It was like, okay, terrifying. So he did. He drove 23 hours to my home in Colorado. And that was that. And, we never said this, but we didn't, there was no set time. Okay, you can come for 4 days and you'll have to go away so we can think about this. He just came. And because why? There are no dates on anybody's calendar. So anyway, there we were. And to your point about it never would have happened outside of COVID. When on earth would we have had time to talk on the phone for 2 or 3 hours a night for 3 months?
I was going to say every relationship should start with 3-hour Zoom sessions to sort of break the ice.
But I call those COVID blessings. And I have a Patrick Duffy story, and I don't know if it's the 80s or the 90s, but I was being flown first class to New York or back. I'm sitting next to this guy that looks familiar, and I'm thinking, I think he has webbed feet.
Right,
and then I was like, no, he's the guy that was in the shower. I didn't watch any of these shows, but I kind of knew who he was. The flight was delayed 6 hours, Linda. So I'm sitting with this guy who was like, I don't want to start talking to somebody who wants to ask me about Dallas or, whatever it was. And then finally, when he realized I was cool and I wasn't going to bother him, he started talking to me. And the movie was Dead Poets Society, which we had both seen. So we weren't listening to it. We were just going, I think this is the part where, but he was just the nicest man. It was like 12 hours that I spent with Patrick Duffy, and then we both rode the elevator in the parking structure, and goodbye, I think we're finally home. But just the nicest man. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, it's been so much fun. A lot.
All right, let's get some asses in seats. Let's get some asses in seats. So what's the website where they can buy,
Fritz is
buy
strict.
tickets?
Rubicon Theatre with the English spelling.
CRE.
Bless you.
.org. RubiconTheater.org.
Okay. And the 26th is previews, 29th is opening,
Yes.
and then you go to the 6th with a hope for an extension. It sounds
Can I do
fascinating.
something horrible here just because I'm desperate to sell for
Yeah,
anybody to come?
please.
Hope you guys will. I'm doing a concert at Catalina Jazz Club. It's a jazz concert.
I
we're
think
doing
I
March-
saw you there years ago. I think it was there or the Gardena room. One
Oh,
of those.
Gardenia. Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway,
God,
March 16th,
you're
you
such a
can-
talented
more
person.
importantly, come see
Okay,
the
when
play.
is it?
What's the date? You can listen. This
Yeah,
is
plug.
Thank you. It's March 16th. It's a Sunday night. It's like a 7:30 show at Catalina Jazz Club in Hollywood.
how many players do you take with you when you do a show?
Just 3 piano, bass, drums.
Awesome, Linda.
And it's Great American Songbook, but in a jazz feel. I've been working
I'm
with
so
these-
happy I got to see you again, and I'm so
Oh,
happy
you
I
too.
got
Oh my
to see
gosh.
Anson and Sharon. You're so talented, and I hope this flies at a high altitude for you.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
And
Thanks
the
for
doggies
having
have
me.
been
Yes.
The
we love
doggies
it.
have been so good. Congratulations, doggies. You are the best. Okay, we want to thank our guests, Anson Williams, Sharon Scott Williams, and Linda Purl. Our team includes producer Dina Friedman, John Maddox, Bill Filipiak, Mason Brown, Raf Rusak, Jordan Reyes, Haley Freight, and you. Our theme music is by me and John Maddox. I'm Louise Palanker, here with Fritz Coleman. Be well and wise and take good care of one another. We will see you along the media path. So don't leave because we're going to stand up and take a picture next to you. And, was I going to say one more thing? No, that was really great. You guys, that was
Thank
well,
you.
I
Thank
hope-
you very much.
Great question.
I hope you enjoyed it. It's hard.